Living in rural America means you need a reliable vehicle. For most, it's the only way to get to important appointments, and for others, it's a critical tool on the farm. Farm Bureau Bank has been serving rural America for over 20 years, and they're committed to making sure you have access to the best products and services from sunup to sundown.
Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Christina Loren. Farm Bureau Bank is committed to tradition and quality customer service. And joining us on set tonight is Farm Bureau Bank CEO Will Heilman and Chief Banking Officer Kelly Hamer. We're so excited to have you back on the show. We had a great response from your first appearance. And tonight we're going to be talking about something that impacts every single one of our viewers out there. So we're excited about tonight's topic. Before we dive in, let's introduce you. Maybe it's the first time. Maybe someone didn't catch our show last time. Tell them about yourself, Will.
Great, I'd be happy to. We're really excited to be back. I grew up in small towns in Missouri and Oklahoma, and we lived next door to our local community banker. So I learned firsthand the importance of having a banker that understands your community, understands the markets. And I went to college, majored in finance, and really wanted to be a banker my whole life. I've been with Farm Bureau for about 10 years. We're based in San Antonio, Texas, and I live there with my wife, Mary Ann, and I have 2 kids that are in college.
So the man who always knew he wanted to be a banker has chosen to take a job with Farm Bureau Bank, and you've been there for quite some time. That just tells you a little bit about who you work for. I can't wait to let our audience members who are unfamiliar with the services that Farm Bureau Bank provides know about what you guys have to offer tonight. Kelly, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the banking business.
Thank you, Christina. It's a pleasure being back. I have, like Will, been in the banking industry for about 20 plus years, with about 13 and a half of those years with Farm Bureau Bank. I currently have leadership over the customer-facing departments in our organization. My husband and I, Carrie and I, live in New Braunfels, Texas, just outside of San Antonio. We have 4 daughters, and we just married the 3rd one off on Saturday, still trying to recover a little bit from that one, and our 4th one to be married in November.
Wow, marrying off all your daughters Texas style, huh?
It's the best way to go.
That's the only way to go. All right. Before we dive into tonight's main topic, let's talk about Farm Bureau Bank. Zippy Duvall, how is he connected to what you do?
Well, Zippy's actually on our board, and we're connected to the Farm Bureau organization. And I think most of the viewers probably are aware of who Farm Bureau is. Yes. Most of them probably are aware that Farm Bureau offers insurance services in many states. And it was really natural 20 years ago to start offering banking products as well. There are less and less banks serving rural America. Unfortunately, there's just been a lot of consolidation, and there aren't those local banks that really understand rural communities. So we were organized by a number of different Farm Bureau organizations, and we're dedicated to serving the financial needs of Farm Bureau members.
I mean, you just think about the person who walks into a bank in New York City. He's going to look very different, or she, than the person who's walking into a bank in rural America. They have different needs. Therefore, Farm Bureau Bank is serving rural America's needs in a special way, in a very tailored way, which we get to talk about tonight. Tonight's show is about buying a vehicle, and whether it's a new or used vehicle, whether it's a car or truck or even a tractor or combine, a good place to start is by examining a budget. Let's start there.
Yes. You know, we all want to just run out and buy that car that we see on the lot. But the real challenge with a vehicle is to make sure you really understand what you can afford. A car or truck is probably the second most expensive purchase we'll make in our lifetime besides our house. And if you look on the screen, generally your house is going to take about 1/3 of your budget. You're going to need to have food and clothing. I would certainly recommend that you set aside some money for retirement and savings. And at the end of the day, we would really recommend only about 10% of your household expenses go towards that vehicle. And when you think about what that 10% entails, for most of us, it really is that monthly payment. 85% of us finance new cars, over half of used cars they're financed, and that monthly payment is really a big part of your budget. And we'll talk a little bit more about what all goes into that payment in a moment.
Yeah, because do we really know? I mean, we write the check every month, but do we know where every cent of that check is going? I certainly don't, so I look forward to talking about that. There's some important considerations you got to make before going to the dealership, before even getting to that point. What should we be thinking about, Kelly?
Absolutely. Some of the things you need to ask yourself is, how long are you going to keep that car? Is it going to be a 2-year time to be able to keep that? A couple more years after that? How far are you going to be driving that vehicle? Are you going to be putting lots of miles on that, driving to and from work or from your farm into town? And how often are you going to look to buy a new vehicle? Some of the additional things that you may need to think about with the cost of that purchase is to be able to consider on a monthly budget. You're going to have to be paying for insurance. You're also going to have upkeep in that vehicle as your gas and your oil changes or new windshield wipers. Before you go out and do that big purchase, take some time to look at the value of that vehicle. There are great websites out there, NADA.com and Kelley Blue Book, to be able to look at that type of collateral that you're looking for, whether it be a truck or a car, to do that research before you go, as well as if you're going to trade in your car that you may currently have, you can use those same websites to be able to value that vehicle before you go in. You also are able to go to those dealerships and get quotes from them to be able to see what they would give you for it, and without necessarily having to buy at that time, but you have at least a negotiating tool when you go to trade that car in.
Okay, I want to pause for just a moment because maybe you're looking for a free auto loan quote. Maybe you're somebody who's, hey, this is the perfect show for me because I'm getting ready to buy a new vehicle or a used vehicle. Well, you can call and get that free auto loan quote, 1-800-492-3276. The call center is open tonight. Farm Bureau Bank's employees, they want to help you. They want you to call to see if they can save you some money. Also, you can find out if refinancing your current vehicle makes sense. You can get pre-approved for a loan before you even go to the dealership. Now, we've all heard the horror stories. Someone goes to a dealership unarmed with knowledge and they get taken advantage of. How do we keep that from happening when we do go to a dealership? How can we make sure that we're prepared completely?
I think it's always information is what's important. In addition to understanding how much you should pay for the car, which Kelley talked about, there are a lot of great websites today. So you should have a really good idea of what you should be paying for the car as well as what your trade-in is worth. Remember, you also can shop around on financing as well. Just because the dealer is offering financing doesn't mean that's the best option for you. And Farm Bureau Bank or many other banks will offer you a free pre-approval, and you can go into the dealership knowing what you're approved for, what the rate will be, and it's just one more piece of information that gives you more power in that transaction.
All right, one more reason for them to not take advantage of you as well, because you walk in armed with that piece of paper, that pre-approval. They're not going to mess with you. They'll know that you've done your homework, which is what I think a lot of the car dealerships that do get the bad reputation, they don't want people to do their homework. They want them to come in unarmed. That's why we're here tonight to talk about this. Now, most of us have bought a car or a truck at some point in our lives, right? What do we know when it comes to that payment that we're making, when it comes to that financing payment? Where is that money going? So say you have a payment of $136 every single month. How do you know where those dollars and cents are going?
Well, there are lots of different components. It starts obviously with how much you're paying for the car and how much of that payment you're financing. So the more you can put down or the more you can bring in for a trade-in, that's always going to lower your monthly costs. The next big component would be what your interest rate is. And most of us think about the interest rate and don't really understand how you can impact your interest rate. And it's really driven by primarily your credit score. And just small changes in your behavior can make a big impact in your credit score. And you can save $25, $50 a month just by improving your credit score by a small amount. The other thing with the interest rate can determine the length of the loan, which is the other component as well. So the longer you finance a car, the payments are going to be lower, but you're going to pay a lot more for the car over time because you're making those payments for a much longer period of time. And the interest rate may actually be higher if you finance a car for 6 years, say, versus 3 years. It's really important to match up the length of time you're financing the car with how long you think you're going to drive it. I mean, Kelley talked about that a little bit earlier. If you're only going to keep your new car for 3 years because you're one of those folks who just loves that new car and want a new one every 3 years, you finance it for 6, you're going to have a real problem 3 years from now because you're going to owe a lot more on that car potentially than you're going to get in the trade-in. It's going to make it really difficult to buy that next car. So really think about how long you're going to keep the car and don't finance a car for longer than you think you're going to drive it.
And I think obviously the same would go for a tractor or a combine.
Absolutely.
You've got to consider all these factors. And what about someone who may have questions about their credit? Would it be valuable for them to give Farm Bureau Bank a call and find out, is there anything I can do to improve my credit? Is that something you can help them with?
Yes, we certainly could pre-approve them, find out what their score is today, and there are lots of hints we can give folks to improve their score. I mean, the most important hint is pay your bills on time. Yeah. That is the biggest component. And the good news is if you are behind on a couple of bills, if you pay your bills on time for 6 months or so, you'll see a pretty nice increase in your credit score. And that's I think, most important thing. But also, if you're getting ready to go buy a car, don't go apply for a new credit card. Don't take on new debt. Keep that goal in mind that I want to buy a new automobile, and try to keep everything else under control.
Yeah, no big purchases right before.
In addition to, if you do have credit cards, you need to keep your lines down below your credit limit. Usually around 30% is where it's typically a good point to stay at, as well as don't close down any of those credit cards, because the history is an important factor in your credit score.
Okay, this one seems to be common sense, yet we still see people doing it all the time. Depreciation. When you drive a brand new car off the lot, talk about that depreciation and what we need to consider, even if we really, really want that brand new car.
You need to take into consideration, typically when you drive that car off the lot, it is about a 10% depreciation in value immediately. While over about the next year is about a 20% depreciation, where your used car is already going to have that figured into the calculation.
Okay, so you get to the point where you have worked with the dealer on getting some sort of loan worked out, whether it's a pre-approval that I brought from Farm Bureau Bank or whether I'm working with the dealer. Oftentimes they try to tack on add-ons on top of it all, but I always wonder, is this something that I really need? Talk about those various add-ons that they'll try to sell you and whether or not we actually need them.
Mm-hmm, sure. A couple of those features that you could potentially get in add-ons is one of them is guaranteed asset protection, which is a GAP program. And this would typically come into place when your car may, God forbid, get stolen or you get into an accident and results in a total loss. This GAP coverage is going to cover the difference between what your insurance company pays you for that total loss to the difference between what you owe on that installment loan with your financial institution. And that could equate to thousands of dollars. Some reasons you may get into this situation that you would need GAP is you've made little or to no down payment on that initial purchase. You may put a lot of miles on your car to and from work or to your farm, and your car is not worth what you owe, as well as you may have agreed to a longer term to finance that loan to get that payment within your budget.
Okay, so it's really going to be a case-by-case basis. Let's talk about MMP.
Major mechanical plan, yes ma'am. That's another component that you may get offered at the dealership. We also have them at Farm Bureau Bank as well. Typically when you buy a new car, it's going to come with a manufacturer warranty, whereas a used car you may have to get an extended warranty, and that's where your major mechanical plan would come into play. It covers a lot of the manufacturer parts, such as your engine or your transmission. In fact, last year, my manufacturer warranty went out and I bought a Farm Bureau Bank, a major mechanical plan, and ironically the next week my engine light came on and it happened to be my power control module went out, which would have cost me about $800 if I had to pay for that out of pocket. So it gave me a great peace of mind to have that.
Okay, now when you talk about things like extended warranty, I've heard from analysts, from the experts, the financial experts, sometimes you may not need that. So we're going to bring somebody in to help us decipher when it's actually necessary. Shane Manning joins us now on the phone. He's an Arkansas Farm Bureau insurance agent. And Shane, what do we need to keep in mind when it comes to GAP and MMP?
Well, like they said earlier, the GAP coverage, I start to see more and more uses of that as over time people are trading more often. They're continuing to have negative equity in their vehicle loans, and we started to see a big usage in the GAP coverage, whether it be from claims, accidents, hail damage, different scenarios that come across play where people are owe more on their vehicle than what they're actually worth, and our GAP coverage is typically about half of what it is through the dealer channels, and that has been a big selling point from the agent standpoint on trying to get those services added on to existing loans.
Whoa. Let me stop you there real quick, Shane.
Okay.
Did you just say that Farm Bureau Bank, what you guys have to offer is half as much as the dealer? Did I hear that correct?
Typically, from what I see, dealerships usually charge anywhere from $800 to $1,000 for GAP insurance, and our cost for adding GAP on our loans is $399.
Wow, and this is something that you say you're seeing more people needing. They're using it more frequently?
Absolutely. There's just a lot of people nowadays that trade very often, and you see a lot of people that trade that are upside down on their vehicle loans. So obviously, starting from day one, once they take on that loan, their vehicle is typically not worth what they owe on it.
Really appreciate you bringing that information to the table. And you know what? Why don't you give the call center a try? Maybe Farm Bureau Bank has something that they can help you with. 1-800-492-3276. Find out if they can save you some money. Find out if refinancing your current vehicle makes sense right now. You can also get a pre-approval if you do have the intention of buying a new car or truck. You can take that letter in hand to the dealership with you, and you're going to be armed with information and a great loan quote. Okay, so here we go. Call for a free auto loan quote, 1-800-492-3276. Chances are they can save you money based on what I've seen. They can do amazing things, rural America, so give them a call. Monday through Friday is their call center, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but they're staying up late for you tonight. 1-800-492-3276. All right, we have so much more to talk about, and we haven't even brought you into the conversation just yet. We're going to pause for a quick break. But first, Farm Bureau Bank has a very special giveaway tonight for 2 lucky winners. All you have to do is visit farmbureaubank.com/RFD-TV, fill out a very quick entry form, and you'll automatically be entered to win a $200 Visa gift card and some Farm Bureau Bank merchandise. Now, you do want to enter by midnight tomorrow. That's the cutoff, January 14th. Again, just visit farmbureaubank.com/RFD-TV to enter and join the conversation tonight, rural America. Maybe you have a question or a comment about buying a new or used vehicle. We would love to hear from you. Our phone lines are now wide open. The number to call, 877-731-6733, 877-731-6733. Stay with us. More Rural America Live with Farm Bureau Bank right after this. Welcome back to Rural America Live with Farm Bureau Bank. I'm Christina Loren, and you are a big part of this show. Our phone lines are now open. We're taking your calls. Maybe you have a question about buying a new vehicle. Maybe you have a tip to share. We want to hear from you tonight. Join the conversation, 877-731-6733. Joining us once again from Farm Bureau Bank is CEO Will Heilman and Chief Banking Officer Kelly Hamer. All right, we know that we've already started to get some phone calls upstairs. This is definitely a hot topic. We talked about how monthly payments are calculated and some of the add-ons that dealers will try to sell you, or, sometimes it makes sense. What do we need to consider, though, beyond that? What else do we need to consider here?
Well, the next factor after you determine how much you're paying for the car is your interest rate. And there are several things that can determine the interest rate. The biggest is your credit score. But in addition to that, as I talked about earlier, it's how long you're financing the car. If you're going to finance a car for 5 or 6 years, you typically will pay a higher interest rate than if you finance the car for 3 years. The other thing to remember is you can shop around. Most folks tend to shop around for the price and forget to shop around for the interest rate, and the interest rate can be shopped as well. So as we talked about earlier, get pre-approved with your bank. Shop around with a couple of banks. Make sure you're armed with all the information you have before you go in and just take the first rate that's offered you.
Okay, now credit's a big part of making any big purchase decision as well. Talk about what we need to consider here.
Well, with credit, most of us have a general idea of what our credit score is, and the higher the number, the better. And if you have excellent credit, that's generally a score of 781 or higher, you're almost certainly going to get approved for a car loan, and you're going to get the best rate. If your credit is fair to good, you likely will get approved, but you're going to pay a much higher interest rate, 2 to 3 times as high as an excellent credit score if you're in that fair range. And if you have poor credit, you may have a real challenge even getting approved for a car to finance it. Mm-hmm. And if you are approved, you could pay very high interest rates, so 15, 18% on that loan. So it's really important when you're buying a car to try to make sure your score is as high as possible.
You said 18 to 20% on an auto loan?
It could be if you have poor credit. Poor credit can cost you a lot, and it's not just your loan payment. Insurance rates are based on your credit as well. So if you have poor credit, you likely are paying a lot more on your auto insurance in addition to paying a lot more on your monthly payment.
See, that's interesting. I didn't realize that your insurance was actually tied to your credit as well. That's fascinating. Okay, it's amazing how waiting a few months can actually have a big impact on your credit score if you make the necessary steps. Talk about how we need to factor that into the equation here.
Yes, the most important thing is pay your bills on time. And if you've just been late a couple of times, to pay your bills on time for 6 months can make a big difference in your credit score. The other thing to really keep in mind is how long you have had credit. What some people will do is like, oh, I'm going to go buy a car. I need to close down all my credit cards. Ironically, that's the worst thing you could do. It will actually hurt your credit score because you now have shorter credit history. So you want to keep that length of credit. It's okay to pay them down and not charge up balances on the cards, but don't pay off those old credit cards. That can actually hurt your credit score.
And if you're not in a hurry, waiting 6 months to improve your credit score is a very quick way to be able to do that. Decreasing or increasing your credit score by 50 basis points can decrease your monthly payment by as much as $50.
Wow, and that can really add up. And something else I want to point out, we talked about shopping around for the best interest rate. Some people might be skeptical, is that going to impact my credit score?
And it really doesn't. The credit bureaus understand you're going to shop. So the first time you apply for a car, that is going to have a temporary hit to your credit score. But if you go get a couple of more hits to your credit score in the next 30 days, it's considered shopping. It's going to have no impact whatsoever. So some folks are scared to go get additional quotes. I think it will hurt the credit score and it will have no impact whatsoever. May in fact save them some money.
That's great information you're bringing to the table tonight. Okay, our phone lines are lighting up upstairs. Kelly from New Mexico, you're first up, leading us off. Go right ahead.
Hi, good evening. I was just wondering, do I need to buy gas at the same time that I finance my vehicle?
You do not have to, but it is a wise choice to consider that. If you're buying a new car, you're not going to be putting anything down, it is best recommended that you get that gap. However, if you're buying a used car, you may already have some great value in that before you finance it, so you may not necessarily need gap. But please always shop around and ask those questions before you go out and finance.
And you generally do need to get gap when you finance the car. But one thing that folks also don't realize, we get a lot of business because folks go to the dealership and finance that car on the weekend while they're buying the vehicle. They'll go into their insurance agent and get an insurance quote. We can refinance that car within a week, add much less expensive gap, much less expensive MMP, and actually save our members a lot of money because they don't realize how much they're paying for those other products. So you do need to get it when you're financed, but you can shop around for gap and MMP insurance just like you can your interest rates.
And all it takes is a phone call to find out if you can save across the board, not just on that refinancing of the loan. That's fantastic. 1-800-492-3276 is the number for the call center. You can get your questions answered right now. One more time, 1-800-492-3276. That's the number to call in. Talk to someone from Farm Bureau Bank tonight. Find out if they can get you a free auto loan quote. Maybe they can see if refinancing your current vehicle makes sense for you, or you can get that pre-approval. One more time, 1-800-492-3276. And based on the number of calls that we're getting upstairs, I know that this is a hot topic. I'm going to give you the number now to call in the show, 877-731-6733. All right, we heard this term underwater. What does that mean?
Underwater means that you owe more on your car than it is worth. And so you think about this depreciation. If you spend $20,000 for a car and you lose $2,000 in value the day you drive off the lot, you're not paying $2,000 off in your loan in that same period of time. And so it means that your car, you owe your lender more money than your car is worth. And where that becomes a real challenge is if you have a total loss, the insurance company is only going to pay you what the car is worth. They're not going to pay you what you owe on the vehicle, which is what some folks don't really understand. And they may even get upset with their insurance company, but the insurance company can be paying the full value of the car. It's the fact that you're paying that loan off a lot slower. And that particularly happens when you have now, 5, 6, 7-year loans are not uncommon for cars and trucks, which means that you're much more likely to be underwater.
It's so hard because we hear about this happening to people sometimes when they're in an accident that wasn't even their fault, and they end up owing all kinds of money after the fact because they didn't take the necessary steps when they were initially buying that vehicle. When we put all of this together, all of the equation together, is there an easy way for someone to figure out if they're getting the best rate possible? Can they do this on their own? I mean, it seems like you kind of need an expert to walk you through this.
It can be complicated, and you always can call the bank. One of our agents will be happy to help you, and we actually have a calculator online. So if you go to farmbureaubank.com, we have a calculator. Many other banks have calculators as well. The math is complicated, and we would recommend that you use these calculators, and it makes it really simple. As you can see on the screen, all you really have to do is put in the amount that you think you're going to finance, what the interest rate is going to be, and then how long you want to finance that vehicle. You can slide the term back and forth, and it gives you a real indication of how much you save each month if you go from 48 to 60 months, but also will tell you up top how much more you're paying for the car. And you can pay thousands more for a car if you end up making your payments for many years versus financing over a short period of time.
Wow. Mike from Missouri is our next caller. Thanks for joining the conversation tonight, Mike. We're glad you're with us. Go right ahead.
Hi, I serve on the local county Farm Bureau board, and I asked a question about Farm Bureau Bank one time that I had seen it on Rural America Live, and no one there had ever heard of Farm Bureau Bank. And I was wondering if it's available in every state, and is it available?
That's a great question. We're available in 44 states. Unfortunately, Missouri is one of the 6 that were not available. And as you know, Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization, and each state selects which benefits they want to offer. And we're working all the time with those other 6 states, and Missouri is not one of those at this point in time.
Unfortunately, because
Thank you very much.
Great farm state, great farm state. You know what, though? He brings a good point to the table. I mean, we've all heard of the American Farm Bureau Federation, but how does Farm Bureau Bank tie into it? And what does it have to do with Zippy Duvall? Someone might be wondering out there. And if they're just joining us, will you let them know?
Yes, so as I just mentioned, Farm Bureau is a very grassroots organization. It starts at the local county, the counties roll up to the states, and then the states roll up to the national organization. They all work together to advocate for America's farmers and ranchers, and then each of those organizations offers a variety of benefits. Most states are affiliated with an insurance company, and then, as I said earlier, 44 of them offer Farm Bureau banking services, and they offer a number of other discounts as well. Granger, Ford Motor Company, but each state can have their unique benefits, and so you just have to go to your state website, and they can outline all the great benefits you get for being a Farm Bureau member in your local state.
It's understandable why Mike wants to find out more, because don't you want the organization that serves farmers and ranchers to be your banker? I mean, makes perfect sense to me. Okay, there's so much to think about when buying a car. People are always looking to save money any way they can. Is there a better time of year than others to buy a car? And talk about how we can find more comparable resources so we know that we're really examining everything before making that important financial decision.
Absolutely. There's many ways you can look at decreasing that purchase price that you're looking for that car. There's lots of great resources out there through websites. Go to those local dealership websites and look at when they're having those great sales. I typically buy during Thanksgiving or Christmas. They're trying to clear out their year-end inventory and bring in their new year inventory. So they do have typically good deals at that time. Also, as we talked about, shop around for your add-ons. Those GAP and MMP plans may be discounted at your financial institution versus going through the dealership, as Shane pointed out earlier. Also, there's incentives to be given to you if you're military or you're a recent college graduate or you're a repeat customer for that type of vehicle at a Ford or whatnot. Also, if you're a Farm Bureau member, we have Ford incentive benefits across many of the states here outlined in red on your screen that you get a $500 discount.
All right, for an American-made vehicle. Okay, I didn't realize that Farm Bureau Bank had such great benefits at dealerships even. Is this something that you can help people with if they're looking to buy, maybe they're looking to refinance? Let's talk about that, because we've heard it on the news. This is a great time to refinance. Is that still true? And really, what do we need to base that on? How far back, say, when we originally bought our vehicle, does that make sense for?
Well, interest rates are at all-time lows. They've gone down a good bit over the last year. So if you've bought a car within the last couple of years, you may have the opportunity to get a lower rate. The other thing is your credit score likely has improved because you have a car loan. Because if you've been paying that loan on time, your credit score could have improved. So even if interest rates are the same, you likely could save money by refinancing a year or two after you've gotten a car, particularly if your credit score is in that fair to good range. You may actually see a nice improvement in your payment by having your score improve.
Okay, and I mean, you talk about equipment, you talk about a brand new tractor, a brand new combine, trying to pay that off. If there's a way that you can refinance that piece of equipment, you could probably save some serious cash.
Right, everything we're talking about applies to farm equipment as well as your personal vehicle.
Okay, excellent.
We're coming into tax season right now, so if you're happy to get back a tax refund, you may consider refinancing and putting some of that money towards that principal payment in order to refinance, as we talked about underwater. That would help you get ahead of that if you're looking to do a longer term and a lower payment.
Or people might be getting that big chunk of change thinking now's the time to buy that car that I've wanted or that truck. So it's a good time to have you guys on just for that reason as well. A lot of people coming into some money here as we move into the next few months. Now, we want to talk with Indiana Farm Bureau Representative Christy Rogers-Klein here in just a moment. Before we do that, though, we're going to go back to the phones. Cheryl from Alabama, you're up first, and then we've got Christy. We're lining them up tonight. Go ahead, Cheryl. We're glad you're with us.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, if you have a credit card that you pay the entire balance off every month, how does that affect your credit score and maybe financing another vehicle or farm equipment?
That helps you greatly. Keeping your balances low, we typically like to recommend you keeping your balance at 30% or less of your credit line, so paying it off monthly is very helpful towards your credit score.
Excellent. Appreciate that call. You serve Alabama?
We do.
Proudly. Okay, now we're going to go to Indiana Farm Bureau Representative Christy Rogers-Klein. She's going to help us through the refinancing process. And this is something, as you talked about, interest rates at an all-time low. A lot of people are thinking about this, Christy. Tell us more.
Hi, it's great to be with you. I wanted to let you know that refinancing is something we do quite a bit of here in Indiana. And we find different scenarios. Like Kelly mentioned, perhaps a client wants to put some additional cash down and reduce their principal balance. That can greatly affect the refinance and their ability to lower their payment. Something we find here in Indiana, sometimes the smaller dealerships don't have access to all of the major lenders. And I have had clients who got a much higher interest rate than they would have gotten through a traditional or a larger bank because they had excellent credit. And we've been able to save them over $100 a month on their payment by refinancing with Farm Bureau Bank. Another thing that we see occasionally, you may have a client who actually has 0% interest, and you're thinking, why would they refinance to go to a more traditional interest rate? Well, unfortunately, they sign that contract. It's often a 2-year term at a very high payment, thinking they would be able to manage that payment, only to find out 6-8 months into the loan that it's not manageable with their budget. We're able to lengthen the loan slightly, but a lot of times we're able to lower that payment, which takes a lot of pressure off the family budget. Another thing that we really are happy to provide our clients is a full service. We are able to obtain payoffs from the other lenders, give them an evaluation of the vehicle value versus the current payoff or balance that they have, make certain that they fully understand the terms that we're able to offer them and that it's going to be beneficial. We're here as a member benefit, and we want to make certain that they understand exactly what they're looking at prior to signing any loan documents. And the team here in Indiana does a great job of walking our members through that process.
Which is important. You really want to make sure that your members understand these financial terms, which can be, they can be a little bit much sometimes. I love hearing from Christy because it's just a perfect example of what one of your representatives are like. She's smart. She knows exactly what we need to do to make sure that we're getting the most out of our money, out of the decisions that we make. And I just would love to work with someone like her. Talk about your other representatives across the country. It's a good opportunity to shout them out because they work so hard every day.
Yes, we really care about personal service, and we think that's what differentiates us from all the other banks. We have great folks like Shane and Christy out in the field. And so sometimes folks see Farm Bureau Bank, we don't have branches, think of us as an internet bank. We don't think of ourselves as an internet bank at all. We think of ourselves as a bank designed to serve rural America. And to do that, we have agents, folks like Christy and Shane that can answer your questions in person. If you don't have an agent nearby, you always can talk to our folks on the phone as well. And we're there to provide you that personal service and give you advice. Because buying a car, may be routine for some folks, but again, most of us do it once every 4 or 5 years. It's a really large transaction, and you ought to have the advice you need to get the right deal.
Yeah, it's like we talked about too. Buying a car in a big city looks very different than buying a car in rural America. I mean, it just conjures up all kinds of different images, one versus the other. So it just goes to show that you really know your clientele. You know who you're serving. Don't forget, tonight, Farm Bureau has a very special giveaway for one of our lucky viewers. All you have to do is visit farmbureaubank.com/RFD-TV and enter to win a $200 gift card. And you'll also get some Farm Bureau Bank merchandise. You do have to enter by midnight tomorrow, January 14th. Again, just visit farmbureaubank.com/RFD-TV to enter. And hey, maybe you can use that $100 to help pay off a loan that you're trying to pay off. There's so many things that we can do with $100. So make sure you take the time to fill out that quick questionnaire at farmbureaubank.com/RFD-TV. All right, we're going to pause for a quick break, but our phone lines are wide open and we want to hear from you tonight. The number is 877-731-6733. We're going to be taking more of your calls next on Rural America Live with Farm Bureau Bank. We thank you for holding on the line tonight. We'll be right back with more of your calls after this. Welcome back to Rural America Live with the experts from Farm Bureau Bank, and they're ready to talk to you and answer your questions about buying a car, a truck, a new piece of equipment for your operation, or refinancing one. The number 877-731-6733. I'm going to give you that number one more time. 877-731-6733. Give us a call right now and join the conversation. Joining us again tonight from Farm Bureau Bank is CEO Will Heilman and Chief Banking Officer. We also have Kelly Hamer with us. We've been talking about going to a dealership and how it can be overwhelming. It's almost like some dealerships, they have a strategic plan in place for right when you walk in that door. When they offer special deals, like say a cashback rebate, how do we know that it's actually going to benefit us in the long run?
This is where knowing your credit score is going to be very beneficial for you to walk into the dealership to make that decision. Because if you don't have that excellent credit, like we disclosed earlier with Will talking about the credit tiers, you may not qualify for that best rate. So that's not even going to be helpful for you. So looking at the rebate might be that better option for you. An example may be a 1.9% offer versus a $1,000 cash back. That's going to possibly save you around $4 on a monthly payment, which equates to about $240 over a 60-month term, where the interest savings on that is around $1,300 if you were to do the cash back offer and put that towards a down payment on your car, if you will. That would also help you later down the line. If you happen to trade in that car, you're not going to experience that negative equity or that underwater as we were talking about earlier.
That's a place no one wants to find themselves in. Okay. We have a call. Caller did not want to actually be on the air. It's understandable. This is live television. We get it. But they do want to know if it ever makes sense to do a lease or why they would lease instead of buying.
Again, it depends on personal circumstances. The one great thing about a lease is you're likely to have lower payments. That's why it's attractive to so many folks. The real challenge is you don't own the car. So at the end of the lease, you're going to have to turn the car back in. And particularly in rural areas where we drive a lot, you may end up putting a lot more miles on the car than was anticipated. You may actually have to pay a large payment at the end of that lease term in order to turn the car back in. So one of the things we end up doing quite frequently is actually financing that car at the end of the lease period, because it's really the only way folks can stay in their car or to come up with the money in order to not have to pay back the person they leased the car from.
But you're able to take that pressure off of them. And I think that's huge. I mean, it can lead to stress, it can lead to health issues. So it's really important service that you do provide. We're going to your home state, Texas. We're going to talk to Jeff tonight. Jeff, thanks for joining the conversation. Go right ahead.
You got it. Hey, Will. Hey, Kelly. This is great information. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. I've purchased new vehicles before from dealers, but now I'm looking at buying my neighbor's truck. I just wanted to see if there's anything you'd recommend for me, since it's different buying directly from them instead of a dealer.
That's a great question. Person-to-person financing, we know, is very common in the rural areas, and you may buy from a friend, a family, or a neighbor. And you just have to keep in mind that this may be a little bit lengthier of a process than buying from a traditional dealership. It usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks for us to be able to get that loan done with the title and everything in there. So you have to make sure you find out if that car's been paid off from that person that you're buying it from. If they have a lien against it, we would have to pay that institution off before we're able to get that title so you can register your car. Does the seller have the title if it is paid off? Do they have it with them, or does somebody else have it? And making sure you know what you need to do with that car and the condition that it's in. There's Carfax available out there, and we can walk you through the entire process, or you can talk with your local agent.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. You just said that we can walk you through the entire process, and this is such an important process. I'm going to give you the number for their call center, 1-800-492-3276. If that sounds like something that you can benefit from, if you'd like someone to walk with you through this process, give Farm Bureau Bank a call, 1-800-492-3276. Okay, we are going to go to Howell from Georgia. Thanks for calling from Georgia. Happy to hear from you, Howell.
Yeah. Where is your bank located in Georgia?
You can go to any county Farm Bureau office in Georgia, and the agents there would be happy to help you. So we are in every single county in Georgia.
157 counties.
Wow, very nice. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue's home state. So yeah,
and Georgia is one of our best partner states. There's a lot of folks that can be helpful there.
All right, thanks for calling, Howell. You just helped out a lot of people in Georgia, and that leaves a line open for you tonight. Join the conversation. 877-731-6733 is the number to call. Get your questions answered right here, right now on Rural America Live. Okay, we've been talking about your payment calculator and how it can really benefit our viewers. Sometimes tools are right there. You just don't realize what's in the box. Talk about how that tool works and how it can really help people if they take the time.
Yes, we have an example we can show on the screen. The question that you asked earlier, do you take the rebate or do you take the lower interest rate? And it generally depends. And so you can see in this example here that if you have an offer of 1.9%, should you take that or the $1,000? If you have really good credit, so that your alternative rate may be, say, 3.5%, in that case, you're going to save about $1,200 in interest versus a $1,000 rebate, so you're better off taking the rebate. But as Kelly talked about earlier, you aren't going to get the 1.9% rate unless you have excellent credit. So if you're someone with good credit, you may actually only qualify for a 5.5% rate. And in that case, you're going to end up paying $2,300 more in interest, so you ought to take the $1,000 rebate, and it's still going to save you some money. The one thing we'd recommend in all of these cases is the dealer offers you the $1,000, and that's the right deal. Put it towards your down payment, because it will keep you from being underwater and will help you get that car paid off faster. It's really tempting to take the $1,000 and go do something fun with it, but you're getting the rebate as part of the car purchase. So I would highly recommend you put that rebate as a down payment and lower your monthly payments and help make sure you're not underwater in your car.
Absolutely. It really all comes down to how well you posture yourself before you make that transaction. It really, I mean, you put 10 hours into this, it could pay off in dividends in the long run. But when you have someone to walk with you through the process, so you don't feel like it's so complicated, it just takes a heavy load off. That's why I want to give you this number one more time, 1-800-492-3276. Maybe you've been thinking about refinancing your current vehicle, maybe your tractor, your combine. You want to find out if it's right for you. Just make a simple phone call, 1-800-492-3276. You can also get a free auto loan quote. Find out if they can save you some money that way. And if you are getting ready to make that new purchase, maybe it's a used car, a new car, you need the pre-approval, well, they can help you with that as well. 1-800-492-3276. I think one of the questions people ask themselves when they get into this process is, how much do I need to save to put down for a down payment? What's a good number? Is there a percentage we should be thinking about?
Well, there's what you have to save and what we recommend you save. I mean, most places today will finance 110, 120% of the car's value, which you're immediately underwater. So we would recommend that you always put down at least 20%. and really factor that into your budget. But just because you're willing to finance more than that and you can finance more than that, the prudent thing would be to always try to put 20% down.
20%, and that can be hard to save up. It might be tempting to just go in there. But what would you say to the person who wants to rush into that situation?
Keep driving the car you have for another year. I mean, that's the real, you can always trade in that car and make sure the car you're trading in is paid off, and use that trade-in as part of your down payment.
That's right. Grin and bear it, because it's going to pay off in the long run. It's going to save you money. Dina, we're going to Florida this time. Thanks for joining us from the Sunshine State. Go right ahead.
Thank you. And my question is there anything you would tell a person buying a car for the very first time?
Do your research. If you are looking to buy a car, allow yourself a couple months before you go in and make that purchase. Look at the websites to determine what car you want, whether it be a truck or a car, or if you're looking to even buy equipment, making sure that you're getting the best deal possible for you. We actually had a customer come in a couple weeks ago that was financing a trailer for their farm, and one of our underwriters told him, did you know that you're able to go buy a new trailer for less than what you're purchasing this used trailer for? Wow. And ironically enough, he went out and found a new one and came back and got the better deal. So I encourage you to spend time and look for that car that you're wanting to buy and make sure you're getting the best deal.
Excellent. Thank you for that call, Dina. That leaves a line open for you. 877-731-6733 is the number to call and join the conversation. It's interesting because we're getting a lot of the questions that we thought we would get tonight. For instance, do I lease a car? Do I buy a car? These are the questions we thought we were going to get. Something else people always wonder about, am I to take a fixed rate or an APR? How do I dictate what works best for me when it comes to that adjustable rate or a fixed rate?
The good thing with cars is generally you're going to get a fixed rate. There aren't a lot of variable rate automobile rates out there. When you do get offered a variable rate, they can be really attractive today because rates are low. But you have to remember in your budget, can you afford the adjustment when the rates get higher? You know, that's particularly true with a mortgage, that you want to make sure that in your budget, you're budgeted for that rate adjustment and you aren't just buying something based on the current payment and the current interest rate. Because as Christy talked about earlier, one of the sad things we see is folks finance a car for a short period of time, they can't afford the payment, and that's just always a difficult situation. So make sure you understand the terms of your loan, what the payment's going to be, and budget for tomorrow. Don't just budget for what you can afford today.
Absolutely, because nobody wants to have that feeling of knowing that what you have worked so hard on, what you have already invested into could be taken away from you, could be repossessed. So that's a really, really hard pill to swallow. But if you take the right steps, you get in touch with the right people, you can save yourself a world of trouble. Now, what is the lowest rate that you can offer somebody, say, who has excellent credit?
Today we have a 2.99 rate for those best qualifiers.
Below 3, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
2.99 rate. Okay, that's outstanding. If you are refinancing your current vehicle, so this is something that a lot of people have their minds on right now. How do you know if it makes sense? What are the determining factors there that you have to really look at?
I think the first thing is how long are you going to stay in the vehicle? It probably doesn't make a lot of sense to refinance a car that you're going to be trading in 6 to 12 months. The other thing is what are you trying to accomplish? What's your goal? Are you just trying to lower your payment? Well, if you're just going to lower your payment, you're going to end up extending it and you're going to be paying for that car a lot longer, or you're going to be in the car another 3 or 4 years if that's the amount of time you're refinancing the car for. What a lot of folks ought to think about is actually refinancing the car for a shorter period of time. What Kelly just talked about, we're getting tax refunds. Actually use that tax refund, put additional money down. If your budget can afford it, shorten that payment, and that way you won't be underwater and you'll get your car paid off a lot sooner.
Okay, I'm sure a lot of people are interested in learning more about the services that you provide. If someone does call into your call center, say they do it tonight, and they're looking for a free auto loan quote, how does that process work? Is it going to be time-consuming? How is that going to work?
No, not at all. You can call into the call center during our business hours, and tonight we're available. It takes about maybe a 10 or a 15-minute conversation to know kind of what you're looking for, what your budget is, and we can kind of help you back into that purchase price that you're looking to do and walk you through all the steps in order to take an application and get you a check and pre-approval for you to go into that dealership and make that purchase.
Absolutely, and your people know the right questions to ask as well. So maybe you think, oh, I'm not prepared to make that phone call. I don't have all that information right in front of me. Don't hesitate, because they can let you know what you need to get in front of you, so the next time you all will be prepared. They can let you know how to get your ducks in a row. 1-800-492-3276. Okay, what if someone decides, you know what, I'm going to wait, I'm going to save up all the cash that I possibly can, and I'm going to buy a car outright in cash? Is there any benefit to doing that? And if so, what is it?
Well, I mean, certainly if you have the cash to not pay the bank interest, it doesn't keep us in business very long, but it still is always beneficial if that's what fits into your budget. So we would never discourage someone from paying cash for a car, and you can always keep your savings at Farm Bureau Bank in a money market account while you're getting ready to purchase that car.
I love that, money market account. And you bring up another point. We're really talking about auto loans and refinancing your equipment on this particular show, but you have so much to offer rural America when it comes to banking. Just let them know the services that you do provide.
Well, as I said earlier, we're a full-service bank, so we have checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, as well as auto loans, credit cards. We offer small business loans. We are looking to always expand our services to help rural America. The only thing we can't do very well is accept cash deposits, because we don't have a branch, but you can use any ATM in the country for free to get cash. And as more of us are moving away from cash, that's a really small thing that we don't offer.
Okay, yeah, and it'll become smaller and smaller as time goes on, I'm sure. Okay, we have one more phone call. Julie from Utah, thanks so much for joining us. You're the last one. Go right ahead.
I was wondering, how does your credit score drive insurance costs?
Your credit score is indirectly used in calculating the risk, and so the better your credit score, the lower your risk rating will be, and you'll end up with lower monthly payments on your auto insurance.
Okay, and that was news to me tonight as well. I had no idea that that was happening. It's just one more incentive, though, to keep that credit score as good as possible, as high as possible. Okay, really appreciate that call. Thank you for that. Now, before we wrap, we've been talking about how you're connected with American Farm Bureau Federation, and big convention obviously happening over the weekend. President Donald Trump is going to be making the keynote speech. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, we're going to be in Austin, Texas this weekend with several thousand other Farm Bureau members for our annual convention. The bank will be on our trade show floor. We are going to have a booth. We would love for anybody who's watching us tonight to come by and see us in person. Kelly and I will both be there, and it'd be great to hear from some of our customers and viewers when we're on the trade show floor. So from Friday through Monday, come by and see us in Austin, Texas at the annual American Farm Bureau Federation convention.
Booth number 632. Are you guys excited knowing that you're going to be somewhere where the president's going to be speaking?
We are. It's always exciting to be there with all the members. It's the third year in a row he has come, and it always makes for an exciting convention. I
love that he's coming back 3 times. It just says what he thinks about rural America. Okay, we're so excited to follow your progress as we continue on. Want to remind everyone that giveaway continues. $100 Visa gift card. All you have to do is go to their website, farmbureaubank.com/RFD-TV. And we're going to be giving away that gift card, 2 actually $200 gift cards. I've just been corrected in the best way possible. We're giving away 2 of those $200 gift cards from Farm Bureau Bank. Also, maybe you just want to find out more about who they are. You can go to farmbureaubank.com. They have a great website. You'll also find that tool where you can calculate whether or not it makes sense to refinance, whether or not it makes sense to go for the loan. Maybe you just don't have the money right now to buy that new car. A tool like that can really help you out. Okay, and one more time, I want to put up the number for their call center, 1-800-492-3276. Give them a call tonight. They're staying up late for you. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you and your family a beautifully blessed evening. Hope you have a great night.